in the Winter Soldier. I love that music, by the way. I feel I feel like it still reminds me of some kind of, I don't know what it reminds me of, some kind of Law and Order type
Does it?
show music or
I
something like
just
that. Yeah.
I love that
Um,
Cajun-y blues and rock.
yeah.
Very cool. I love it.
It's it's cool. And we got the finale of the Falcon and Winter Soldier. For us, it would be yesterday.
Yep.
Friday. And before we get into any spoilers, I do want to just talk about our overall thoughts about the finale, about the series as a whole, spoiler free. I'll let you start. What were
Okay.
your overall thoughts?
You know, we talked about this at the halfway point, and so really, what I said about kind of before the halfway point still stands. It was a slow start for me. Even after the first two episodes, maybe two and a half episodes, I was I was really kind of worried about this one. Um, After episode three started picking up, episode five was incredible for me. Episode six was even better. So I really loved how this ended. Um, and it really was a slow, gradual build for me, and I I think I was maybe expecting more of episodes five and six, what we got, and in terms of action and stuff. And there was a lot of build up. Episodes one, two, and three, and episodes four, five, and six, things started to kick up a little bit. Um, yeah, it definitely recovered from its rocky start, for me personally. And
Mhm.
by the end of it, episode six, that finale was a total home run for me.
Yeah, I think my reaction, my experience of this show was maybe a little bit different from yours.
It's okay to be
Whereas
wrong, Josh.
yeah, it is. I'll admit that. Um,
No,
but yeah, I think.
I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding because
Oh, I know.
I don't think that I was. I honestly don't think I was in the majority with how I felt.
Right. Um, but I think the way you felt about WandaVision is kind of the way I felt about this series, where and I think it was like
Okay,
kind of flip
okay,
flopped.
yeah, okay.
And I'm not comparing this show to WandaVision because you really shouldn't,
No, it
in
is
my
very
opinion.
different shows. Yeah,
Um,
very different shows.
yeah, but like with WandaVision, for example, for me, it took some time to warm up to that one, and it was the first couple that were kind of like, okay, I
Gotcha.
want to
Yeah.
get this, I want to get to where we're going. But for me, this show, The Falcon and Winter Soldier, from the get go, I was in. Um,
Okay.
I loved it from the beginning. I pretty much loved it the whole way through. I have very few, if any, complaints about this show at all. It fit right into that mold of the Winter Soldier and Civil War and the feel of those kind of films and the way it kind of tied into the end of Endgame and everything and the blip and all that stuff. Um, I really like a lot about this show, and there's not a lot that I did not like. And um, I'm a person that's all about like character development, and I
There's a
don't
lot of it
mind
here.
the occasional slow burn. And I
Hmm.
really loved what this show did for the characters, and when the action was in there, it was really good. Um, and there were definitely some moments in this finale where I was like cheering like out loud, like pumped up with what I was seeing. Um, we'll talk about that when we talk about spoilers. But yeah, for me, overall, I was very, very satisfied with this show.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm
but I
glad.
think we will.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you got there. I don't mind slow burns either, but there was something about this, just like the first couple episodes, it just didn't jive with me for some reason. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of things
Hmm.
that I really loved about the episodes. It's not that I thought they were bad or anything like that. It's just for some reason it just wasn't landing with me. And then second half of the season it really did. So
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Um, so I think we are. Let's throw up a spoiler warning here, because we are going to go into some spoiler territory. I feel like it's really the only way to talk about this show.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
pretty much, yeah.
um, And so let's get into that and talk about, first of all, what are some things that you really liked about this show?
If we're going the show overall.
Yeah, yeah, and even in the finale as well.
Okay. I mean, so the finale. I'm just gonna go with the finale.
Mhm.
Sam's introduction was perfect.
Yeah.
In every respect, in every aspect, it was perfect. Uh, the costume is right on. Uh, looks if you look at that with some of the art in the comics, it looks spot on. It's so cool. Their costuming has been so good. Um,
Mhm.
even look back at, and I know you just finished like a rewatch or finishing a rewatch, but I mean, look back at old Captain America,
Yeah.
versus
Yeah,
where we're at now, and it's mostly
for sure.
spandex and
Uh-huh.
this suit, and then thinking back to Wanda's Scarlet Witch get up, uh, they're doing some pretty cool stuff in costuming right now, and
Absolutely.
Sam's Captain America is right up there, and I love. I'm not gonna lie, and I mean this is gonna get a little maybe dodgy territory, but like I was a little worried about what Sam was gonna be doing with the shield after he talked to Isaiah in that one episode. A little worried
Mhm.
about that, and I didn't. I still wanted him to take up that shield, like even after hearing what that meant to Isaiah, what it could mean to Sam. I still really wanted to see Sam in that role, and I'm glad that he kind of took that all in and still chose to, be that black man carrying the stars and stripes, as he said.
Yeah.
Um, because what he did in this episode was nothing short of phenomenal, and the messages that he was delivering there, while it's still current to our time, definitely some of the things we're going through right now, it's also timeless. Um,
Mhm.
and loved it, loved it.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I know in the Discord chat when we were watching the episode 5, we were talking about what's in the box, and there was kind of this there was speculation like I thought it was, just vibranium wings for him, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some discussion about maybe it's a Captain America suit. Um and it turned out that it was both.
Yeah, it's a
And
little
there was
combination of
there
both,
was that
right?
idea of it being both too in our chat. Um which was great. I thought it was just awesome,
Yeah,
and,
which
I
is
was
very cool
so
because I mean that's not
pleased.
something that Steve Rogers does. It's a little different. It's a little
Mhm.
different take on Captain America.
Yeah,
Because
it's still making it as it's his own, you know what I mean?
right, and I
Um,
mean Sam doesn't have the super soldier serum, so I mean he's more vulnerable, feels more vulnerable, but he's
mhm.
also flying. He's got the little jetpack boosters to help him out with stuff that we saw.
Yeah.
It's all cool. I love it. I love every bit of it.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and, you know, I think we were even wondering too, like, is he gonna be what's he gonna be? Is he gonna be Falcon? Is he gonna be Cap? Is he gonna be Captain Falcon? You know, what in
Because
um
those are all possibilities. Those are all fair game.
Right,
Those are all comic
right.
stuff, and like I keep saying comics. Like MCU is never. I mean, they've always kind of they're obviously based on comics, but they've never really held to those as like scripture. So
Mhm.
all of those I thought were fair game, and I love that it's Captain America.
Me too. Yeah, it really feels really right. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
cause like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you follow up Steve Rogers' Captain America? Because that is such an iconic character, and I love that character so much. And Sam, he fills it so nicely. I mean, it
Yeah,
just
he
feels
really does.
right. Those are the parts that I was cheering, like him being Cap, the action, everything with the suit. Um, those are the moments that I was cheering, and then there were some moments where I was close to tears. I mean, um, just the speech that he gave in front of those, were they Senate members or I for or who
Yeah,
I
the
forget
the
who
one
they
was
were.
the one was a senator. I don't think they were
One
all
was a senator.
senators. They were all
Right.
members of that.
They were part of the
Was
was
that
it GRC?
GRC? Yeah,
Yeah.
they were all members of that board, I believe, or whatever that
Mhm.
thing would be. Or yeah, but yeah, the one was
Yeah,
a
and
U.S.
just
senator, the old guy.
right. And the things he was saying to them were so spot on. Like,
Yeah,
this is something that I struggle with quite a lot in my own life is like when we're talking about I'm an educator and you see all the time, and God, I hope there's no school board members that are listening to this right now, but you see it all the time where you have these school board members.
You were an
Um,
educator.
I was an educator who are making these decisions about what's happening with the teachers and what's happening with the students and what's happening with the school, but maybe they don't have any educational experience, and they're just making these decisions. And that's kind of what Sam was saying, like, who's in the room when you're making these decisions? Do you have the input from the people
Hmm.
that are this is affecting? Because you need to think about the power that you have and what you're going to do with that power, because you have the power to create, you know, um, something like the Flag Smashers because of what you're deciding. So I love that message, and that's something I really loved. I loved the scene between Sam and Isaiah towards the end. Um, when Isaiah starts to embrace the idea that Sam could be a black Captain America, and then taking him to where, like, I don't know if where the monuments are and everything for Cap, and seeing his Isaiah's statue, and there being all that really moved me. Um, and so I loved that as well about it.
Agreed.
Yeah. Was there anything you didn't like about this episode or this show?
Um, I mean, I kind of already talked about some of the stuff I didn't like about the show overall. The only thing I really didn't like about this episode was I thought maybe Carly deserved a little more out of this. She doesn't make it out of this alive. I was kind of hoping she would. Sam really kind of fought for her to. He knew that there was something more there, and he kind of fought for that. I kind of wish that he, would have got that chance to see that through. And you know, I don't know if there could have been redemption for her, or like Zemo kept saying that she was too far gone. Or
Hmm.
I was kind of hoping that that wasn't gonna be the case, but I guess it ended up being the case. So I was hoping for a little bit more for Carly. I think.
Yeah, I can't disagree. That was kind of not the most satisfying thing to happen to her character.
Yeah,
Not that everything should be satisfying necessarily, um, but I feel you on that. Um, for me, I think the thing that I don't think there was much about the finale that I didn't like, but about the show in general, and this is just sometimes this could be me as a viewer, and it could be my own problem, and it might not be a problem for anybody else. But sometimes I had a hard time following the motivations of the different characters. Like, what was Sharon's motivation, and why was she, and we'll get even to the fact that she was revealed to be the power broker. So, like, what exactly were her motivations? What exactly were the motivations of the GRC? What were the motivations of John Walker? What were like, there was a lot of moving pieces, a lot of characters with different motivations doing things. And I think I just need to go back and rewatch maybe,
maybe,
to pick
but
on some of that more.
I think a lot of that comes down to this was meant to be like 10 episodes, I want to say,
Hmm.
and it got cut down to 6. So I feel
Yeah,
like a lot of those things are things that are a result of that.
that could be.
Because it felt. I think I mentioned this in maybe last week's show or maybe a couple. Like it kind of felt like there was more that we didn't see here, and I
Hmm.
could start to feel that the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
Where it felt like there were missing pieces somewhere. Last week, like I said, kind of felt like a mid to late season episode instead of the setting up for a finale.
Hmm.
Um, so I think maybe a rewatch will help. But I think that there's also missing pieces there as a result from cutting down the number of episodes.
Okay.
That's
So,
that's a that's a feeling I get anyway. But
and that could be. Well, let's talk about this a little bit if that's cool. Let's look at the GRC, for example. So they're dealing with all these people that have come back after the blip, right?
yes,
Um, and what to do with those people.
right.
So, like, they're establishing these, is it like these kind of
I want to
I
say
don't want to say
camps. Yeah, I
camps,
mean that's kind of what
but
they're yeah, that's
for
kind of
these
what they
people.
are.
But I think the issue the Flag Smashers had was, the GRC is kind of hoarding some of the food and supplies and resources and not
That people
giving it to
need. Yeah,
those who need it. And
right.
I think that was one motivator. And I don't know. I hope I'm not missing anything there. Um, but then I was thinking about like Sharon as the power broker. So Sharon, she,
Sharon, I feel like I followed a little bit more than some
mhm,
of the other stuff.
right.
But go ahead.
Because like she got in trouble basically for stealing Cap's shield um giving it back to Cap in like Civil War probably.
Yeah.
Um
Yep.
and everything the way she was involved with that. So she ends up in is it what is it
Madripoor.
called? Madripoor. Um so I think she probably feels like maybe screwed over by the United States,
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah. I mean, for me, that's where I feel like she's. I feel like that's where her story makes sense. So yeah,
Mhm.
she's feeling like her country has abandoned her. Kind of
Yeah.
left her hung out to dry. Uh, and this is how she had to, kind of survive. Yeah, and
Mhm.
I think in some way, I think in some way, and I don't know because a lot of this has to deal with that end credits scene. But I think in some way she might be trying to find a way back, into power of some way that she can maybe kind of exact some vengeance on the people that wronged her specifically. I don't know that
Yeah.
she's actually specifically looking to, you know, cause national a national security emergency or threat or anything like that. I don't think that's what she's looking for here. I think she's looking for some payback to the people
Yeah.
that did her wrong.
Yeah, and I
And
think also some level of control too, because I mean, I think that was maybe the idea behind the super soldiers was to be able to use them to gain the control and the power that she kind of needed
yeah,
in a way. But then Carly kind of split off from that into the Flag Smashers because they wanted to really change the world instead of like controlling the world possibly or something to that effect. I think was their conversation, something to that effect.
right.
Um, So, yeah, I guess that was one of the things. There were just some questions that I had of like motivations and then even like the Val character, like what was her involvement with the rest of the Flag Smashers that had the serum, their vehicle blowing up, like who did that? You know what I mean? Like I was wondering about that. Like
The
who was that dude that was sitting in that car, that bald guy
I
or whatever? And
I
then like
I'm pretty sure that was Zemo's butler, his Alfred type guy.
oh,
He was because he
okay.
showed up
Okay.
earlier in the series, and then we didn't see him again. This is so I
Yeah.
think I think that's where I go back to like some of the stuff that was cut out. I think that's where some of it felt a little bit disjointed because of that.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking specifically of of that guy, of the butler,
Yeah.
but then of also, and I'm gonna blank on the character's name, but Sam's guy in the chair,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that ends up with the Falcon suit at the end.
Mhm.
I feel like not to the extent of the butler, but I feel like he was there at the beginning, kind of disappeared, and then came back.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a problem in the show.
Mhm. Yeah, so if it sounds like if we did have any problems with it, it was some of those things, like, just things that we didn't have a complete picture of. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anything else that you didn't like about it?
No, no, I don't think so.
Okay. So I also wanted to kind of talk about like the heroes and the villains of this show and who those heroes are, who the villains are. John Walker definitely comes to mind. Um, and his character, Carly's character, comes to mind. The GRC itself comes to mind. So, what are your thoughts about the heroes and the villains in this show, and who's who here?
Well, I mean, I'll go back to I'll throw out that quote about the villain is the hero of his own story.
Hmm.
Because there's a lot of that going on here. I don't know that there wasn't really that that Marvel. big bad character that we all like to talk
Right.
about. That's not really what this show is about. The show is about kind of the strife and the confusion that came with people coming back from the blip, and
Yeah,
how do
like
we
the
handle
fallout
that?
from that. Mhm.
And where are things happening that are unfair to those that have been here and those that have come back? It's kind of dealing with that, and then
Mhm.
there's also the stuff in there, with race and racism. That stuff is in
Mhm.
there too.
Mhm.
So we're really dealing with all of that. I mean, the heroes of the show are going to be, Bucky and Sam, Falcon, Winter Soldier. I think those are your heroes, good guys.
Definite, clearly defined
Definite good guy
heroes.
heroes there, but
Mhm.
they're even dealing with their own issues also.
Mhm.
And then Bucky's still kind of dealing with those issues of being a bad guy. So even he's kind of dealing with both sides of that coin also. But the rest of this isn't really, I don't think, was so much about setting up a bad guy. I don't think that there was that in this. This was kind of dealing with fallout from Endgame still.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think the character that is most interesting to me in this conversation is John Walker because
for sure, I want to talk about him a lot. Yeah.
yeah, because I feel like that character was not liked, not well
No.
received, and I think it was supposed to be that way. Um,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, because he's trying to take up that Captain America mantle when, we all feel like, oh no, this should be Sam. Bucky feels like this should not be this guy, and so he's trying to navigate this situation where you know, he's not really being completely embraced by especially by the people that worked most closely with the recent Captain America.
Right.
He's
Right.
not being embraced by them for sure. And then he's navigating this situation where he feels like he can't overcome um, the people with the flag smashers who have the serum and everyone else, and he kind of is tempted by that serum and ends up
Yeah.
giving into that temptation. Um, and then it takes a violent turn and his title's removed, he loses the shield, and then
Loses
at
his
the end of
best friend.
episode yeah, he loses his best friend, and at the end of episode 5, I'm thinking, "Okay, this dude's he's the villain." He's another villain in this show, and he's creating his own shield, and then we see in episode 6, the finale, with his character, it took, for me, an unexpected turn. Um, I wasn't even sure if we'd see the character in this episode, and then we see him kind of somewhat redeem himself. Um,
Totally redeemed
he
himself.
totally redeemed himself in that moment, saving those people when the vehicle was about to go over the ledge there.
Yeah.
Um, and then we see what happens with his character at the end with Val, in becoming the U.S. agent, who is, I'm guessing, a character from the comics.
Indeed.
Yeah, so a very complex character and hard to
Yeah, a little
kind of
bit.
pin him down.
Yeah.
Mhm,
I I gotta be honest. I was really kind of rooting for him the whole time.
mhm.
It was hard for me, even when I was supposed to hate him. It was hard for me to hate him. You know,
Yeah, see, it was really easy for me. I did not like him.
I had a hard
Yeah.
time because to me, he was lost the entire time.
Mhm.
He was
And
put
I
in,
think you're right about that.
he was put into an impossible situation. I mean, who's going to be the next Steve Rogers? I mean, who can live up to that?
Mhm,
Um, and then he's given that chance, and he has, they talk about his career. This is a guy that has put his all into his career. Even last episode, when things went bad for him, you know, that whole thing about the U.S. government was the one that made him. They trained him to do what he did, and that's
mhm.
that's good points.
Yep.
You can't argue with that. They kind of created that monster a little bit.
Mhm,
And so when he's confronted with things like taking the serum after he takes the serum, he loses his best friend. He does what he's trained to do. You know,
mhm.
and it's violent and it sucks. But I was never able to hate him for it. And then you see that fallout from directly after what he did. He goes back to that warehouse right before the fight with Bucky and Sam, and he's in a bad place.
Hmm.
He knows what he did. He hates what he did, and then it's back to more confrontation almost immediately for him, and you can
Yeah.
tell how lost and how frustrated and how just mentally he's just not there, right? Because as
Hmm.
soon as Bucky and Sam start talking, even though they're trying to talk reason into him, he doesn't see that. He's kind of like Frodo with the ring. He's kind of
Yeah.
clouded by that.
Yeah.
Where as soon as Sam starts talking about lightening his load, Frodo goes nuts, and
Hmm.
it's kind of the same thing that happens with John Walker. He hears about taking the shield, and for him that's his ring,
Yep.
and it's like I can't hate him for that. I could never hate him for that. And so seeing his redemption was really satisfying for me, and I was
Hmm.
really happy for him. At the end, becoming U.S. agent, being so happy about having that identity for himself. Something that he
Yeah.
can fall into and work with. I loved where he ended up here.
Yeah, I definitely like the way that that ended up. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that character and what he becomes. Um,
And I
and
gotta say, I'm blanking on the actor that plays him.
is it Wyatt Russell? Is that right, or something
Yeah,
Russell? Um,
Wyatt sounds
yeah,
right. Um, what he did with that character was, I mean, he played it perfectly.
I
Um,
agree. Yeah.
and you're right, Wyatt Russell,
Hmm.
played it perfectly because when, even if it didn't land for me, I guess I wasn't ever supposed to hate him. But even when he played the guy you were supposed to hate, everyone hated him. You know.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and then when he kind of goes crazy, he nailed that part of it. And then when he kind of comes back around, I felt like it was a great redemption for him. So I think
Yeah,
Wyatt Russell just nailed that.
it's great acting for sure. And I mean, before we go on, I just want to say about villains. I think I mentioned the GRC being a villain, the kind of the organization itself, um, and kind of those that are in power or kind of can be the villain. You mentioned racism. Race being an issue in this show, and racism being a villain. Those kind of larger ideas and being villains
Yeah.
as well in this show.
Hmm.
Um, but you mentioned how you felt about how John Walker concluded in this. I guess I'll call it this season, maybe this series. I don't know if we're getting another season. We'll talk about that in a minute. But um, how did you feel about the way this season concluded?
I thought it was a
Um,
perfect finale. Perfect finale.
hmm.
I've already talked about Sam. I feel like Bucky's in a better place.
Hmm.
I kind of wish that we saw the fallout of the conversation that he had with the father of the son that he killed. I don't know if he had a
Yeah,
name, but I can't. If he did, I don't know. I don't remember.
yeah.
I kind of wish we saw the end of that. See what the answer to that whole thing was.
Hmm.
But then thinking about it more, maybe we're just not supposed to. Maybe the point is that he had the conversation, and it didn't. And the point wasn't how it was received. The point was that he made that
That
initiative.
he had it.
So,
Hmm.
um, but a perfect finale, I think, for everyone, minus maybe Carly. um, and I guess I love where Sharon Carter's role is going. I think that it's very interesting, and that end credit scene I think is interesting. Also, she gets the pardon, she gets to
Agent
come back.
Carter is back.
Double Agent Carter.
Hmm.
Uh, but aside, like I said, from maybe Carly, I thought it was perfect. The way it wrapped up for everyone, I feel good about where Bucky's at now. I feel good. I feel great about where Sam's at now. Um, so yeah.
I'm right there with you. I agree. I couldn't have said it better. And I guess that leads us into the future. And what do we think? Is there going to be another season of this show? Are there going to be spin-offs, or is the rest of the story going to be told in Captain America 4? I mean, we have the showrunner, according to rumor, that might be in fact directing
Hmm.
Captain America 4. What are
I
your
hope it's
thoughts?
Captain America 4.
Hmm.
I would like to see this story pick up there, I think.
Yeah, I think it would
I,
make a lot of sense.
I don't think that we'd ever get a Falcon and the Winter Soldier season 2 just simply because there's no Falcon right
There's
now.
no, yeah,
unless
yeah,
unless we pick up with guy in the chair and Winter Soldier. Um,
right.
uh, I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't see a second season of this. I would if there was another set of shows, I could see it continuing, but being called something else.
right.
I guess there was I still haven't watched this a second time, but I guess there's a title change at the end where it said Captain America and the Winter Soldier or something like that.
Oh, hmm.
Um,
I didn't notice that.
I didn't either, and I still haven't watched it. Like I said, I've only watched it the one time.
Yeah.
Um, so I could see that kind of thing happening. I just don't think that
Hmm.
we'll get a second season of a show called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I
So
think, and I think if we were going to see a spin-off, it might be like a U.S. agent spin-off
yeah,
show, possibly,
yeah.
unless he's featured in Captain America 4. Um,
Hmm.
so, but I do think I really want to see Sam as Captain America and Bucky in Captain America 4 and possibly Sharon Carter be in that as well. Um, I'd like to see that. I think that that would make for a good film. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If this story gets continued, like I said, I want it to be Captain America 4. I
mhm.
want the big screen treatment for this. So
All right. So it's hard to believe, but we have finished WandaVision. We have finished the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and next up is going to be the Loki series in June. So, any final thoughts before we wrap up this week's show?
that was a fast 6 weeks.
It really was.
That was
Yeah.
a fast 6 weeks.
Hmm.
I guess we got Bad Batch next on Disney Plus, and then we'll have Loki. So I'm very much looking forward to Loki now that we've seen kind of what they're doing with their TV properties nowadays. So did you kind of get the feeling that maybe that Welcome Back Agent Carter was kind of a dig at the Agent Carter show, not you know not having a long
Could
life?
be. Could be. Yeah, that's quite possible.
I wondered about that because
Hmm.
I don't know. It was a decent show and it just didn't last long. I mean, those ABC
Hmm.
um, Agents of Shield was okay. It just these TV shows that they're kicking off that they're doing now are just next level. And
It's yeah, I was gonna say it's another level, and I agree with you. Just like the Falcon, this series flew by, and I think that leads us into
or
some road.
Captain America flies now.
Yeah, but you know what? Where we're going, we don't need roads.